Julia Gaspar-Bates. I am the local groups director for SIETAR USA Board, and we are delighted to offer our second webinar of the season. That we're trying to do these on a regular basis now, so stay tuned for more information. We're delighted to have Valerie Bath with us today, who is going to be discussing a topic that I think is near and dear to many of our hearts, as so many of us are consultants and entrepreneurs ourselves. But just to learn some new tactics and best practices that Val has experienced herself on how to market our cross-cultural businesses. So I believe this is going to be a very interactive session. So we'll turn it over to Val in just a moment, and she can kind of cue us in on when she would like to have people unmute their phones. But in the meantime, if we can ask everyone to turn off your cameras. I know Val wanted to say hello to everyone, and I'll turn mine off in just a moment as well, so we can just see Val's beautiful face. And also to just keep your phones muted until Val invites us to open it up for discussion. Also, would like to ask if you can hold your questions until the end. We'll have about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the webinar to have Q&A. But again, I know that this is going to be somewhat interactive. So again, thank you so much, Val. I'll let Val do an official introduction of herself, but we're very much looking forward to having you here today, and to all of the members who have called in as well. Okay, turn it over to you, Val.
All right, great. Thank you, Julia. I appreciate it. Also, a big thank you to Holly, Sandy, and the board. I really appreciate the invitation to speak with you as well as facilitate this conversation. And that's really, I think, an important part of it is I'd like to make this interactive webinars, speaking with to a camera for an hour and a half is usually, something that I like to do, but I would encourage you to share your experiences, whether it's in the chat space or unmute your mic and or video and share some of your experiences, because looking at the roster and list of attendees, there is a significant amount of experience here. So I have been a member of SIETAR for over 15 years. I've attended many conferences, had the opportunity to speak at a few. And so I think the webinar and the ideas of sharing virtually is a great idea. So, so like many of us, this is our passion and it's our purpose. But however, one of the most challenging things is how to market it. And that's what I've found, especially over the last, 10 years or so, when I decided to really go out and market and sell the work. So I'll share what I've learned, the techniques that I've used that have been successful, the ones that have not. However, our markets, they might overlap, our clients. However, there are other clients that I haven't marketed to. So we'll share our experiences as we go through the session. So welcome. Let's see. Okay, so we'll go through introductions. I'll tell you a little bit about my background in the field. I'd also like to hear from you in the chat space and share your experience, a few questions from you. And then first of all, who are our clients? That's the first question. Step one is to identify who they are and why they need our services. So we all have different or some similar clients. And then the next question, where are the best places to reach the clients, our clients? And that's either live or in the virtual space. So I'll move into effective marketing strategies that I've used and to promote our services. And then at the end, we'll go through the best networking, live and virtual, and continuing education recommendations and Q&A. So that's our agenda for our session. My background as far as the cross-cultural space is 10 years of international corporate business experience with Texas Instruments Semiconductor, Accenture, and Boeing. So I was an expat in London and worked in Europe with Accenture. I also worked in Asia and did quite a bit of work internationally implementing global systems with different companies. And at about the year 2000, I started to work for many of the relocation language companies that I think many people started their careers with. And if there are any new people to our field, these are, I would highly recommend starting and just really learning about the field when it comes to servicing multinational clients and corporations. And then there are other markets as well that we'll discuss. And then in about 2010, I decided to really step into the marketing space and business development, providing client solutions, understanding clients' needs, developing programs. I also reached out to many others in the field and created consultant partnerships, which I think is one of the most successful areas of marketing that I've pursued. And so this was under the name of Cultural Business Consulting. So we call it CBC. And then the last 2 years, I had another marketing opportunity, which I acquired the Global Coach Center website and training materials and cultural self-assessment tool called the ICBI. So this is another marketing another marketing experience where the client was or currently is the coaches who are needing intercultural skills, as well as trainers who are interested in pursuing coaching skills, intercultural trainers, because the coaching, it seems that the last couple of years, coaching has really become important in our field. So I'd like to hear from you. So if you could, in the chat space, let's try out the chat. This is a good opportunity. Can you just write your name, where you're located, and or the country of origin or your cultural identity? And then I'd like for you also to put the number of years in the cross-cultural field. Important to know what experience we have here. And then if you have a particular question that you would like answered, or topic that is most important to you during the call. So I'll give you a few minutes. We can take a look and see who we have attending. Okay. Hi, Pilar. Good to see you. Okay, Maria, Jennifer. Okay, good. Thank you for your questions. Jennifer, if you could specify in particular, new markets that you're interested in pursuing, that would be helpful. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. We have several. I'm reading through the list, and I'm jotting a few questions. It looks like we we have several years. I mean, we have some people that have just entered the field, 4 years, 10, 20 plus years. So a wide variety of participants. So so we do have a lot of experience as well on the call. So that's good. All right. We still have a few more coming in. Okay, how to transition into the cross-cultural communication field. Okay. Okay, so, all right, let's go ahead and move on. Thank you for your introducing yourself. I appreciate that I've jotted a few questions down, and we'll also have Q&A at the end. I'd also like, during the session, as we go through some of the points, I'd like for you to share some of your strategies that have been successful for you or the clients that you serve, okay? All right, let's go to, who are our clients? For CBC, our clients have been expats that are relocating to different countries. We've also significantly expanded our client base recently to multicultural teams. We do quite a few group trainings internationally, and not only related to the U.S., but we have teams that we're training in China working with India. So so that has been, you know, an interesting type of development type of work. So we have leaders that are managing multicultural teams. That is more of a coaching solution. So that's been a shift from cultural training to coaching. And then also coaching business development professionals individually that are expanding into new markets. So those typically are the clients of CBC. Then our second would be the Global Coach Center, and our clients there that we service are trainers and coaches needing intercultural experience. So what other clients in the group do we service? If you could unmute your mic or put in the chat space who your clients, if they're not multinational corporations as CBC services, who else can you share those? I know that there's educational and nonprofit and many other clients. So go ahead and share that in the chat or unmute. Mid and senior level physicians and healthcare physicians and healthcare providers. Absolutely. Good. That's absolutely a different one. So healthcare is an industry that continues to grow. Church teams. Okay. Leadership coach for leaders working globally. Okay. Okay. Schools, universities, mostly corporate, but other government. Okay. Nonprofits. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Teaching cultural differences for language schools, IT startups and SMEs in India, and business verticals. Okay. Good. All right. So we have many different clients. That's important. The first step is, who are my clients? Who do I want to market to? Okay, that's key, because the messaging needs to address those. So why do they need our services? So obviously expats integrating into the new environment, global teams conducting business effectively, working together, understanding cultural communication style differences. You know, the leaders the employees are leaders, you know, meeting their business objectives. These are absolutely, you know, important. The messaging that has been created for the marketing for each one of these different groups is important to understand. So thinking about yourself, who your client is, or there's new markets that you'd like to service, considering, you know, how they're working and what is important. So in the individual coaching with leaders, business development professionals, and expats, understanding, you know, who they are, what their goals are, and what makes them successful. Okay. And let's also look at the different industry served. So, you know, obviously you have other more common industries of education, nonprofits, automotive, banking, financial services, you know, many of these. And then the less common industries served are listed as well. So a few of these were listed in the chat. So I'd like, if for those who have worked in other industries outside of the corporate clients, if you could, you know, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about how, you know, how you work with some of these other industries.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stacy. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Stacy. Thanks.
Hi. I'm not sure if I fit in common or uncommon. I know that I'm a recently retired physician, and I did D&I and cultural competence training with healthcare providers for 20 years in any setting that I worked in. It was my gift to the organization. And now I'd like to continue that same work and get paid for it. And I was particularly intrigued with this webinar because I'm having a difficult time marketing myself as someone from the outside, you know, not being in the corporation. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but
yes, that's right. Absolutely.
For the knowledge of how to break in as someone with experience, someone who knows the audience, and in a way that they see the value of someone, where they see my value to offer. Yes.
Good. Well, I think many of us are in the same in the same situation of, you know, how as an entrepreneur do you market to these particular services or clients. Okay, that's good to know. So when we go through some of the marketing strategies that we use, I'll also ask for, there's some people in the group that are in healthcare, and hopefully we can target, understand how to target some of those markets. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Like we talked about, there are several different services that typically our industry provides. From the cultural awareness, you can see through the list of intercultural communication, the global teamwork, relocation, expatriation, D&I. As you go through, you'll see international negotiations, conflict resolution, candidate assessment for expats, and global mergers and acquisitions. And so these are many of the services that we provide, and as an industry, and it's important to determine which one or several that you're planning to provide. So for CBC, in our situation, cultural awareness, sensitivity, global teams, and relocation expatriation and global leadership are the ones that we focused on. So those are really the four. There are many other services that you might be involved in, and they do require different messaging. Okay, so we'll go through some of these. Okay, so the next question is, where are the best places to reach our clients? So in our situation, partnering is, I would say, the number one thing. Referrals and working together as a team. SIETAR, networking with other consultants and being asked to work on certain projects together, as well as when we have opportunities for training, we reach out, we send emails to people that we know, or groups groups of individuals like ourselves here to refer and share the work. So absolutely, I think that has been one of the number one places of how to market. And then there are, language companies, identifying those in your area, or larger ones who need, you can provide a service with them. The other one, translation, relocation companies, movers, temporary housing. These are all, I've networked with my local providers, as well as some international providers to share our services. So that's really been an area where I've marketed. Of course, there are other types of other EAP, employment assistant programs, as well as your local embassies, consulates, immigration attorneys. All of these are different ways to pursue. One that I didn't put on the list was global business solutions. And this is a new area where I've established relationships with companies that help corporations or businesses establish in a different country. They typically provide IT services, financial services, and they partner with us to provide cross-cultural services for the companies that are establishing business. And that's a new partnership that I've developed with a couple companies that has been successful. So the other areas to network would be, other businesses, universities in your area, nonprofits, hospitals, government institutions. So those are some examples. I'd like to hear from others who could share their top places where they reach their particular clients. So if you could unmute yourself or type in the chat space, please. Okay, so yeah, expatriate communities, that's right, in your area. Yep, Chamber of Commerce, right? The German American Chamber of Commerce, absolutely. We have a local group, which is GABA, German American Business Association. All right, yeah, international schools, that's a good place. Yes, your local schools. Faculty and staff in global higher education. Yep, good. What about anyone? It looks like we did have some experience in healthcare earlier. I'll have to go back, but if you have some examples on how to market to healthcare or groups, where you would find these groups, if you would like to share that. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing those other places you reach the clients. For the people who have just started the field, it's a good opportunity to work for companies that already provide services to expats in particular, who are relocating to different countries. This is where I started with several of these and other companies to really understand, as far as that services involved, expat services. And then also there are opportunities to deliver group trainings with many of these companies as well. So, okay. But for many of us who are veterans in the field and are marketing your own services, or if you're in a group of people that are marketing services, then where do you go and what do you do and what strategies are used? So I guess one of the, other than partnering with other consultants, speaking in conferences and webinars such as this one, for me has been the #1 marketing strategy that I have have done. So I speak to HR, PIRA groups at large conferences or smaller local conferences, ATD, all training and development. I mean, these are the places where our clients typically attend conferences. Also, ENP, Executive Next Practices, that's a local group, a professional organization. And also speaking at some of the other groups, like the Chinese Association, Chinese American Association, I'm in the Southern California area. So we have that, the British American Business Council, GABA, German American Business Council. So speaking, getting out, because speaking once usually ends up into another speaking opportunity or a couple. And so the other thing that has been very beneficial are virtual conferences. So this year I spoke at a virtual conference called Elevate Virtual, and it was the largest HR conference that has been televised. However, the interesting part about that was that you were recorded prior to the airing of the sessions. It was one day, and participants could select between 10 different speakers. So there were various topics, and everyone was pre-recorded. So during the session, you would have people attending, writing in the chat space. I was also attending, watching myself speak. However, I was fielding questions in the chat space as as the recording was happening. And it was really interesting, because that talk at the time, people were tweeting and talking about it, and that resulted in some successful marketing. So that's really a new space that I've started to pursue is how to speak virtually. Obviously, in person is always the best, to speak to people afterwards and shake hands. But I think moving forward, webinars, getting comfortable with webinars and the medium has been a very important part of success. The second one is, publishing the books and articles, blogs. So if you're not a writer, if you are a writer, I know there are many here who have written books and articles, and that's I think a very important marketing strategy. But for me, I hire writers to write some of the ideas that I have in blogs and also in articles. So I was asked by Forbes to write for their website, and this year we've published 2 articles, planning for a third, and it's yet to be seen if that's an effective marketing strategy for us. Blogging has been very important, especially to drive traffic to the next bullet point, to the website. With 2 websites, Cultural Business Consulting and Global Coach Center, we do receive quite a few requests through the websites. And that has been a significant investment of search engine optimization. So having the right keywords, they call it long tail keyword searches. So having questions, and it's actually a science in how to capture, the people who are Googling or searching for your services. So one of the most important things is to have a significant amount of content on your website, because that will drive, people to your site and asking questions and filling out the contact me forms. So over the last, this year, in April, we finished the Global Coach Center website, and I did have a team of experts, that a project manager, a writer, an art person, and a web code, that did all the coding for that site. So that was, so we have some success with that site. And then the CBC site has been around for many years. When I originally built the CBC site, I decided to manage it myself and manage the content, the writer, the developer, and a manager who, we were working on that, and that did take a significant amount of work and effort. So, again, I know not everyone has the budgets to do all of the website marketing. However, looking into that and figuring out, if you can invest in it or learning it yourself, because there are courses, and we took a social media boot camp to understand how social media works, and it's been useful. We have clients that we have received through our websites, so it has been effective. So at that point, I just want to stop and see if you have any particular questions on the chat or experience with your websites, or the top 3 that we've talked about so far. I think we have a few comments I want to, yeah. Okay, so yeah, blogging, LinkedIn, and Facebook, absolutely. So thank you, Jennifer. Okay, yeah. So like you said, the Facebook, LinkedIn, really understanding where your audience is. Most of our audience is on LinkedIn. That's where we spend quite a bit of time posting and reposting others' articles, and getting involved and hitting likes on different things, and becoming part of the groups in the community of social media. So not only are we posting to, the SIETAR or our cross-cultural colleagues, but we're out posting into the groups. In our case, we're part of many HR groups, international management, talent development type of groups. And so figuring out first who your target is, and searching for those particular groups, posting, significant, important information, a little bit of knowledge, and that is where you start to get known. And the other strategy that we've used is to post at a particular time of the day. So when we post articles between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, whatever time zone you're in, especially if you're trying to target local clients, that is a good time to post. And then also between 5:30 and 6:30 at night is another optimum time to post. People are commuting, or they're, have time, especially the ones who are in companies. During the day, they're not looking at their social media. So we've determined that's the best time to post, because there's so many things online that people can read, that when you target the timing of when they're reading it, it really is helpful. Okay, so those are social media groups. I have some examples on the next few slides that I'll show you that we are a part of and that have been successful for us. Some of the other things that I have heard is a good idea, but I haven't used, is advertising services on partner sites, websites. So again, as you go back to thinking about who your, I call them power partners, would be, maybe language companies and moving companies and other ones. On their websites, you might have, a link to share their services. So I think it's also a good idea. I have, many partnerships, but I haven't linked with them yet. The other thing would be getting involved in writing on expat blogs, especially if that's your market. There's Internations, which is an international group in many cities, including the Los Angeles area here. We also have expat.com and other local groups. So that would be another area to do. So the other investment would be in social media services. So we've invested in Google AdWords, as well as campaigns and education in social media. So Google AdWords is a paid service where if certain words are typed in, then your website will come up. And I would have to say that I would hire someone to do this, because we tried to do this on our own, and it's not as straightforward as it looks. It seems pretty easy, but my experience has been that it's challenging to figure out how the back ends of things work. We've also ran campaigns, which is where you target particular groups on LinkedIn in our case. So LinkedIn, we used a parameters around corporate people, corporate audiences, and had certain ads and things running at a particular time period. It was all set up so things would post automatically. And there was some success and interest, but I would have to say it really didn't lead to work for us. So I don't know if it was not done correctly, but again, new areas to explore. And then we took many courses in social media, how to use LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, And so, but for us, LinkedIn is the one. So really trying to understand what those things are. The other area that I think is important is to have a really good logo for your business. A very inexpensive, great way that we used for both of our logos was 99 Designs, the website where there are designers from around the world who will take your business and start to create different ideas and different logos. And once you find a designer that speaks to you or really works, where you like their designs, then you hire them. And it's actually a very good process. I would highly recommend that. The other area that we've worked in with our websites and some of our self-assessment tool, maintaining that and developing it, we use Upwork. So we find developers, freelancers through that website. And so if you do need help in a website, in social media, any kind of back-end type software development, I would highly recommend Upwork. And then I don't have a source for good writers. I somehow have connected over the years with people that I think are excellent writers, and so that's another area that we've invested in is writing services. So at this point, I'd like to have you unmute your phone or your line, and then also share with us some of your strategies that you've used in addition to this, or if you share in some of these. So I'd like to hear from you.
Hello, this is Jennifer.
Jennifer, thanks. Hi.
Hi. So I really like your ideas about the website and SEO optimization. One element I'd like to add in there, I'm not very technical, so I have hired someone for my website. And with Google keeps changing their algorithms for SEO. So I think within the last year or two, websites that are responsive on various devices tend to get higher SEO, in addition to all the other things they use to calculate that. So I've noticed, for instance, my blog, which is responsive to different devices, tends to get more hits, and people don't bounce out as quickly as my website, which is not responsive, and really you can only view it on a regular laptop very well. Mm-hmm. So that might be something for people to consider when and if they're getting a new website or updating their website.
Yes, absolutely. You know, they have to, your websites need to be especially on the phone, because that is where people are looking at things. You know, or their iPads or other devices outside of their computers or laptops. Yeah, you know, my first CVC website was not mobile phone ready at all. And so I think if anything, that's one of the best suggestions, Jennifer, that if you already have an existing website, does it work well? You know, go and, you know, Google yourself, Google your name, Google your company, see where it's coming up or not. And then, you know, how does it look on the phone? You know, this year with the Global Coach Center, we tested and fixed and you know, because between the two platforms, it is important to have them working on both. Good, thank you. What else? Who else has a good point to share? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so Amy has the, add. Oh yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Julia.
Please, go ahead.
I can add. I've found a lot of my clients. I've found actually just through speaking engagements at local professional groups. So I've partnered, and I know that you talked about the partnerships, but that seems to be a really great way to, you know, I know for myself and probably for a lot of us on the call, we're not salespeople. You know, we are intercultural trainers or whatever it is that we do. So that's been a big challenge where, you know, there we can really showcase our work. And I've just found that either directly or indirectly, it's come back bountifully.
Exactly. I know. Yes, that's yeah, for me as well. That's what the top one that I put. And also just trying to figure out your strategy for 2019. I know that's something that we've been working on, is writing down the conferences for next year, where they are, what dates, when are the proposals due, and just to start to be proactive this year, planning for next year. So and that's an important thing. And then even, yeah, with the local groups, right? Understanding which ones you think will be effective, and planning those out right now, getting them on the calendar. So important. Good. Yeah. So Amy had a question, which Julia, I mean, maybe you could help since you're on the line, which are, you know, what are some ideas for a topic when you speak to a group? So I think it obviously depends on, you know, what group you're speaking to, tailoring that topic to meet their needs. You know, I you know, have several different topics that I conduct. I think that, you know, overall, a couple of you had put unconscious bias. You know, I think self-awareness of your own culture, if you have topics around that, applies to many different groups, but really going and finding out who the group is and what their needs are is important. Amy, do you want to unmute yourself if you have a particular area or group that you're targeting? And if not, that's okay.
Yeah, great. No, I've been exploring like some networking, women's networking groups and stuff, and kind of just looking for what's kind of a popular topic that might appeal to the mass, you know, if I'm going to do a proposal to do something. You know, there's so much in the intercultural, and how detailed do you get, or how broad do you go, was kind of my question about, you know, what helps people become, you know, kind of get captured to want to know more. Right, exactly. Good. You know, Stacy wrote an answer that was interesting. Do you have, I would like to hear a little bit more about your topic on implicit bias, especially, you know, in the medical field, and your experience and what you've talked about, because that is an area that I haven't focused on, the healthcare industry. Would you mind sharing with us, Stacy?
Yeah, I'd love to. Since I've been doing sort of cultural competence, kind of, you know, intercultural sensitivity kind of trainings for 20 years in healthcare, you know, the whole conversation has matured. 20 years ago, I couldn't even, you know, you wouldn't even use the word bias as a as a title to a talk. But a lot of research has come out in the last 10 years around health disparity and decision making, where physicians are, you know, caught off guard, imagining that they'd be making different decisions depending on different groups they're working with. And so a lot of research around unconscious bias has come up as the explanation. So that actually is the topic that's been requested that I talk about. So you know, chairs of departments have said we need a talk on implicit bias. So that's actually a topic that's been requested. And so that's what I've been focusing on, trying to refine and move past just describing what it is to, okay, now we know we have this issue. What is the skill set that we need to excavate it, to, you know, we can't eliminate it. Our brains are wired that way, but to, you know, eliminate the impacts of our implicit bias by, you know, by self-reflection, self-awareness, mindfulness. I'm really, this is actually kind of a new topic for me, so I'm still figuring it out. But
yes, good. Thanks, Stacy. No, I appreciate your input there. And if I could add to that, another topic that I've noticed at conferences that I've started to try to figure out how to weave into our field would be the neuroscience. There is a lot of information about how the brain works, and it's like scientific. So if I'm trying to figure out how to weave that into my talks, because when I attend conferences, it seems that that's really a hot topic at this time, and it absolutely connects to the work that we do. So
yes.
that would be another one. Good. Okay, thank you. And then Karen had asked in the chat that on a topic about 99 Designs. That's an interesting question if they provide other services other than logos. I only use them for logo purposes, for design. However, I think it really would depend on the background of the person. And if you go to 99, they have, a person and, where they're located and what type of work they've done and a bio. So if they do have other, skills and services, I think you could probably work with them to do that. I mean, what we did is we put our business name and then the services we provided and sent that to them, and they came up with designs. So I didn't have them help strategize with marketing. There are, I believe, companies that do that, and but I haven't had a lot of experience. It's challenging because our field is, sometimes it's difficult to market or explain to people who are not in the field. So they almost need to be coached or take a session, to really understand things. And when I've had teams helping with the website, I've spent a lot of time explaining and showing them different solutions and helping them understand what it is that we do. I think that's one of the challenges that we have. Okay, there's Julie had also given a recommendation. Okay, that's a free service. Thank you. Very good. That's good sharing. Okay. All right. So we have several things going on in the chat. Finding another source. Okay. For Groupon. Thanks. Okay. All right. Info Run is also a good network for business women. There's also, I know for women, called Elevate Network, which is another women's great networking group. Okay, good. A lot of different suggestions in the chat space. So, what people are blogging about and how many words. Usually 400 to 600 words are the best in a blog. And sharing that content on different platforms is absolutely an important thing. So, yeah, it looks like there's a lot of good experience. I was wondering if, who posted this? Elaine, if you would share a little bit more. You wrote quite a bit about your experience and success in blogging. Would you mind sharing with us? If you can unmute yourself.
Hi, sure.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I do like to write about travel and cross-cultural experiences, and I just wanted to share some resources that I've used that have made posts more shareable and that get to different audiences depending on the different platforms I share it on. I think a lot of people tend to find content on social media first before they find the blog, but that's just my experience. So.
Okay. Yeah, very good. All right, excellent. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Then we have, let's see, it looks like Jennifer has a recommendation there. And okay, so other recommendations for, SIETAR. Yep, okay. Yep, having a monthly meeting to share marketing ideas, what works. Okay, good. All right. Any others? And yes, definitely we will share the slides. And I believe this session is also being recorded. So if others would like to, listen to it later, that would be helpful. That would be good. Okay. All right. Anyone else would like to unmute your line and share if you have an idea that I haven't talked about that has really been successful? I think it's important to work as a community and learn from each other. So go ahead and unmute. Okay, good. And then there was another comment on themes, productivity, bias, ROI, team building, mindfulness, incorporating those within the cultural instead of just marketing, cross-cultural, market with some of these topics that are hot topics that people care about. Maybe getting a co-speaker. I know that many conferences I've presented with another person with a different subject matter, and that has increased our audiences and our interest. And many people who weren't aware of cross-cultural and were surprised, I think. And that's another area, to consider, is to team up and partner with others. Okay. All right. So one of the other things I'm going to add to the list here is, creating videos. Now, I've attended a few social media workshops lately, and they said that there's so many videos out there that the industry is starting to see a comeback for audio and podcasting. So especially if you're not, comfortable with a camera, I know that, recording yourself on a particular topic and, and you can even erase it and start again and record. That's a very effective way to also publish a podcast or audio. And, even maybe your local radio stations, or I know that Forbes last week asked the authors and contributors to create a podcast, just a 10-minute podcast for us to put out there. And so when Forbes is talking about audio, then that's probably an area that you might want to invest in. And the other new, field, I guess, is virtual reality. And I've been in contact with a developer who's a software developer who's working in that technology and looking for content. So I'm really excited about the possibility of using that type of methodology in our learning, in our work. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but it's very intriguing. So I'm hoping that works well. So okay, so moving on to a few other things. So those are some marketing strategies that we've used, and thank you for sharing all of those chats and recommendations. I think that was I'm going to go back and read all of them. So great. And then, so some of the best networking and continuing education recommendations would be, obviously SIETAR, of course, in the U.S., Japan, Europe, and India. And as many of you said, your local Chamber of Commerce or international chambers of commerce. I know Los Angeles has an international one. Then there's also the business associations, embassies, consulates. Obviously, those are good. 6, the Summer Institute of Intercultural Communications, as many of us well know, have attended many times. But for the newcomers, would highly recommend SIETAR as well as the Summer Institute just outside of Portland, Oregon. Another, education is coaching, and there are several different coaching platforms and education. I really think that for intercultural trainers, especially myself, this has, over the last couple of years, been a very important, significant addition to my skill set and others. So, our company, Global Coach Center, does the 4 C's Cultural Mastery certification with the tool, using the tool, the ICBI. And then what else? What other networking opportunities would you want to chat in the chat space, jot down in the chat space? Okay, so, all right, so let me go through a few more other recommendations. So as you think about other places that you have networked or received education, and I think a lot of great networking is online. There are websites, for example, expat websites, there's Facebook pages, there's LinkedIn pages, asking a cross-cultural and expat coach, contributing to those discussions. There's global mobility and international HR groups. These are some of the areas that we in particular spend like to contribute and join in the discussions. So virtually, it's an important place. Again, Association for Talent Development, they have a group, creating awareness of our services is important. And then Professionals in Human Resources is called PIRA. They have chapters, in many different locations, and I would absolutely recommend that. That has been for us, one of the biggest sources of work and clients that we serve. And then we have the, another one, Intercultural Communication and International Development. That's another really good group on LinkedIn. Oh, good. And I see that we have others that have shared some in the chat spaces. So we have the Interchange Institute with Ann Copeland, absolutely. With the Train the Trainer, Ann, good. And then we have, ATD, SHRM, Families in Global Transition, FGT, and then we have the National Diversity Council has chapters, okay. In Pennsylvania, they have an excellent diversity council, good, yep. I've never attended Families in Global Transition. I believe it's in Bangkok, the next one. So that might be an interesting conference to attend. But certainly, I think if they have a group or, social media way to, to connect, that would be a good way to go. So very good. Excellent. Okay, any others? Or if you have a good recommendation, if you'd like to unmute your mic or share, I would encourage you to do that. Okay, so it's come to the time of some Q&A, and I'd like to ask you to unmute, not only asking questions about some of the strategies for marketing, but also sharing your experiences and what has worked in your industry. Who are your clients? What do they need, and where do you find them? I would appreciate that, especially when it's outside of the business that we're in. So I'd like to hear from those in, higher education or not-for-profit, healthcare, some of those others that I noticed in the introductions that you had put down. And maybe we could brainstorm together where you can use different marketing strategies. So I'll go ahead and open it up.
Val, there was a question that was typed in earlier.
Okay, I know.
When writing proposals for corporations, outlining the possible ROI is a big factor. Any suggestions?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I think what we've done in many of the proposals that we've written, I mean, it is a difficult thing to put exact numbers when you don't know what their numbers are, but there are many statistics, I believe, and I'm going to ask some of the others in the group who might know of ones, but I know the World Bank and BGRS, and there's a couple others. I'll have to go back and look, but they are good resources for statistics on successes of expatriates, productivity, profitability. If you can't put numbers in, I think it's good to speak in words of those, preventing misunderstandings, but also using business type of words. And I think looking at proposals from other colleagues or in different industries might also be very useful. That's one of the things that I've done is not only looked at our field and training, but what are some other proposals and what are those words? I mean, you can even search and get proposals responding to RFPs. So, okay, yeah, but absolutely, return on investment is important. They want to know what those numbers are, and I haven't really been able to put those exact numbers, just the words. Anyone else have more to share on that?
Hi, this is Judy Cantwell in Atlanta, Georgia.
Judy, hi.
My internet connection is down, so I've been listening on the cell phone, unfortunately, which I'm real disappointed, but so glad to hear it is going to be recorded. I'm kind of a unique, odd bird. I'm more of a cultural interventionist. And by that, I mean that when things go wrong, that's when I get called in, and when I love to get called in. I'm a licensed professional counselor, been practicing for many years, and I'm a repat. And so I've been working in the area for a number of years. And the referrals that I receive are from organizations, medical institutions, because I have a lot of healthcare experience, higher education, and some of those when things are not going right, either whether it's a workplace issue and team, or for instance, I do a lot of bicultural marriage issues.
Okay, good.
So a limit is that English is my only language. I'm sorry?
Okay, yeah, no, it's interesting. That's good. Different groups, yes.
Yeah, so if there's a problem, and I love doing that. So I'd love to get in and figure out where, what's a cultural issue, what's something else, and really help people with that. And it's not easy to find clients that way, although they do come to me, especially through my website and having, say, bicultural marriages. But of course, any suggestions that anyone has, you know,
Yes.
I would
Yes.
love to
Good.
know about where to
Yes.
where to find clients.
Right. Exactly.
Corporate, individual, what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, one of the best things that I just thought of for anyone is to have referrals of recommendations from previous clients.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have satisfied, you know, couples or clients who you could ask, you know, to write a recommendation, and then, you know, have those posted obviously on your website, or have, you know, just, you know, kind of blast those out to different groups that you think where there might be others who could utilize those services. So, you know, I always talk about laser targeted marketing, you know, identifying who are your clients, where are they going to be, and then the messaging, right? And so for you, again, you know, I always ask clients to, you know, write something, or I ask, you know, in our evaluations or summaries, if I can use, you know, their words. So, and afterwards, I mean, that's key, very important. And,
well,
you know, so, and if you could get the thumbs up too on your post from that person, it's good. Yep.
Well, that's really valuable, because you helped me recognize something on Google and Yelp, and we have here Kudzu. I have a lot of testimonials from clients, just unsolicited, but I don't have any from that are talking about cultural issues. So thank you. I'm going to I'm going to target that audience and get some testimonials from there.
Yes. And solicit those, as well as LinkedIn. You know, when you have your LinkedIn profile, if you ask people to write a recommendation for you, I think that also is a really significant way. You know, if people are looking at you through LinkedIn, they can see others, you know, who have utilized your services or who have worked with you. And that's so important. I think many of us, you know, well, including myself, I need to do more of that as well. So, but it takes time, but I think in the long run, it's a great marketing strategy, you know, and I mean, it's important if you do, you know, good work and you have happy clients. So, and there's another thing chat here. There are many intercultural marriages in the military trying to figure out who to contact in the branches to offer counseling. So that would be, thank you for that recommendation, Suzanne. So that would be another one. Let's see. So we have other quotes here. Somebody has the experience of working for 3 different companies with the same client. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Which hat and what am I wearing on what day? Okay. That's interesting. Good. That's happened to me as well in the past. All right, good. And then, so there's also a document that is for SIETAR's The Living Code of Ethics. Oh, okay, I think there's a whole other discussion here. I might, maybe Julia, have you been monitoring the chat? Can you give everyone an update or a summary of some of the chat? I haven't had a chance to read a lot of the responses here.
Yes, we have, and I think you've answered pretty much all of them. I've been trying to write down some of the questions as well. One that we haven't addressed yet was setting and negotiating rates and some sort of best practices and lessons learned on that. But a lot of people are furiously typing as well. So, but maybe if you could address that one, that'd be great.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah, and Julia, thank you for the recommendation about referrals too, you know, a 5 to 10% referral with the projects. Absolutely. I think, you know, that's also an area that I've created agreements with other interculturalists, and we do joint work and refer business to each other. You know, not only with other interculturalists, but I'm on groups that are more OD professionals. You know, I'm in a group of 15 different professionals with many different competencies. and I'm one of two interculturalists. So that is an important one. So as far as fees, and that's interesting. I think there's it really depends, and what, you know, and maybe the question, if you could define a little bit more about what service you're providing and to who, and you know, the number of hours, you know, that's a tough one just to throw out, because I would say all of the proposals that we write are very different. We don't have, you know, a standard price. It depends on how much development, hours, how many people, how many sessions we conduct. If we conduct more sessions, then we bring a discount to our clients. If we only conduct one, you know, that would be a higher rate. Obviously, there's training fees, and then there's coaching fees, two different types of variables. Also, the experience level is important, you know, to understand who you're hiring, or yourself. And I think that is, there are many different components to pricing. So if you have a specific question, if you want to unmute and ask, give a little more detail, maybe that would be helpful.
Hi, this is Karen. I asked a question about the fees, following up on the referral question, which I appreciate as well. And I realize that there are so many different variables involved, but I was just wondering if anybody had any, you know, best practices or resources or lessons learned. I mean, I've kind of made up my own rules as I go along, but like you, I understand that training and coaching are different, whether you decide to go, you know, by a project basis or hourly rate. And so just curious from others what their experience has been.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
I'd be happy.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I'd be happy to, because this has been one that I've had a dilemma with for so many years as well. And what I found is I kind of have not really a template, if you will, but sort of a range for corporate clients, for nonprofit clients, and for educational institutions. And within that range, I kind of have, you know, a lot of flexibility depending on, you know, if it's a half-day program, if it's a full day, depending on the amount of customization that's needed, depending on how large the audience is. And I found I used to really bid low because I felt that I was, you know, always afraid that they would hire somebody else, or that they, you know, be out of their range. But I found that really, if they want you enough, then there's always, they'll come back and they'll just say, hey, this is out of our budget. Would you be able to do this? So it hasn't been as much of a deterrent.
Right, exactly. Okay, good. Anyone else have pricing or recommendations in that area? You know, I guess the other factor is, I mean, is this your own client that you are working with, or is it through, you know, another third party? Because obviously, you know, your rate per hour will be significantly different, because it takes a lot of effort to develop business, to market, to invest in websites, and spending the time in conferences. So, you know, I think you really have to consider that. And I like the idea of charging what you think is right. And it might be high because, you know, many clients do talk us down, and ask for, you know, lower fees. But I think, you know, to keep our industry, I think as an industry, we need to stay very strong with our pricing as entrepreneurs in this industry. So, you know, but it's obviously going to vary, not only with industries in the U.S., but different countries, because you know, when you look at currencies and exchange rates, I think you need to also take that into consideration. CBC not only works with American companies, but we work abroad. in Mexico and India, we've had to hire trainers in Finland and Sweden, and the rates are much higher there. In other countries, we have lower. So there's obviously the U.S., but when you take the international market into consideration, there's certainly differences there. Okay, what else? Okay, so yeah, we have a general list of prices. I didn't prepare that, so I mean that could be something we could add to a slide, and let me think about that. I think that is a good idea to share. And then, oh yeah, East Coast, West Coast, South, in the U.S. Okay. Yeah, maybe we could, share different rates. I'm on the West Coast, and I know there are many people in different cities and regions. I think that would be a good exercise. Great. Yeah, those are good points. Julia, I'm going through the list. Are there other questions? I see a lot of chats, so I'm catching up.
Hi, sorry, I'm muting. I think it was
That's
more,
okay.
I think we've covered the questions. Does look like a lot of people would like to have some ideas on rates. So I'm just trying to think of some ways that we can maybe continue this discussion. I know that there was definitely some, discussion about having more continued types of group chats around this. I think the one thing that we'd ask Val in the next few minutes before you end up is maybe just to share your top 3 strategies with us, and let us know, as sort of some final words, and take 1 or 2 more questions in the chat box if anybody would like to add those, and then we'll wrap up in about 7 minutes.
Okay, yes, that sounds good. Yeah, think of some other questions, and I see a few popping up in the chat space. So, as I said before, connecting with others in our field has been a significant, I guess, I don't know if it's a marketing strategy, but, it's one of the things that I love. Before, I felt very siloed and, working independently. And over the last several years, really reaching out and connecting with others, and brainstorming ideas like we are here, and sharing and just getting motivated, right? And oh yeah, that's a great idea. And if there's just one thing to take away from connecting with others and attending conferences and speaking at conferences, learning and sharing, that would be the number one thing, because there's a lot of opportunity there. For us, and that's been the investment of social media and websites, because, we have received requests through the websites that we followed up on, delivered coaching and training. And so these are absolutely, really, really great strategies. I mean, social media, I think, will continue, to be the place where generations will be looking, and whatever format they are in, whether it's on the phone, on the computer, or maybe phones will be eliminated, and they were talking about I guess seeing things with your eyes and clicking and blinking and selecting things. I mean, whatever medium is out there that people are marketing are the places that we need to be. I'm kind of old school, so I don't, I feel like I'm sort of being forced to do some of these things, but I'm learning, and I am asking people. I have an intern who has been helping me into this space of social media. So connecting, it's just another way virtually, and even SIETAR is moving in this space as well, with less fewer face-to-face and more virtual trainings where we're connecting like this. So yeah, and then, yeah, just sharing.
Sorry.
So those would be it.
Could I chime in?
Go
This
ahead.
is Jennifer. Someone had asked a question on ROI, and I had a couple experiences that I was able to kind of calculate an ROI, which was pretty interesting. So when I was doing the cross-cultural training with some of my clients in India, a few of them were preparing sales presentations and new client orientations when they were coming to the US. So once we went through our coaching and training sessions, they would come to the US, they would do their presentations. And so after doing some of those presentations, obviously they were able to sign on clients, which brought them business so that we could calculate into an ROI. That happened more in one-on-one and very small group sessions. Now, that was kind of an easier place to get numbers, but then there were other kind of situations where we could get maybe a tangible outcome, but we might not necessarily know the numbers. Like after coaching a small group of professionals on a virtual team, they were able to create better relationships, and because of that, their clients that they were working with referred them to other clients that got them bigger or better projects in the future, or they were able to sign on the same client, maybe on a different project or some other work that they could do with them, so they would kind of retain that client.
Very good. Thanks. Yeah, Jennifer, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it, and I'm glad we reconnected recently as well. So
yes,
thank you.
Likewise.
Thanks for attending. Good.
That's
Excellent.
nice.
Yeah.
So I'd like to
okay,
just
Julia.
Yeah, thank you so much, Val. This has been incredibly insightful and really helpful. Really love the interactivity of this, and for everybody who participated, for really sharing some best practices that you've had as well. I think and hope it was certainly informative for me, and I hope it was for everybody, whether we're a new entrepreneur or consultant, or we've been in the field for 20 plus years. I think that there was a lot of valuable information that was shared here. We will be following up, so just a couple of things just to reinforce some of what we've talked about today. The webinar has been recorded, so you will be able to access this, and also we will be sharing the slides with everybody who participated on the call. It will not be posted, the slides will not be posted on the website, however. And also, I think that some great ideas generated about continuing the discussion. So we will certainly be discussing this at the board level, and we'll be looking for some other opportunities to not only continue these webinars. We have several, and we're planning them at least once a month as we go forward, perhaps more if we have other ideas, but we'll look at other ways that we can connect virtually as a community as well, since that seems to be a real desire for a lot of us. Also, I just want to put a plug in for the Saturday seminar, which is going to be taking place in November. I think it's the third weekend in November. I'm sorry, I don't have the date right on top of my head right here, but it will be taking place, and Sandy Fowler, who's on the phone, could perhaps give some more information. Have received a message that Basma, who many of you know, will be making baklava. So please do sign up for that. We've got some amazing speakers and a very timely topic. And Sandy, I don't know if you'd like to add anything more about that, but I'd just like to wrap up by, again, a warm thank you to you, Val, and to everybody for participating today.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Julia. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.